Hi there, this is John from Mend My Heart. I have a question for you. When someone brings up COVID, do you get angry? Do you get sad? Or do you get angry or sad or hard feelings because someone around you still has those feelings? I felt that way about COVID for a really long time. And in my opinion, COVID is the single largest mass grief inducing event probably in my lifetime. I think it was bigger than 9/11. That's my experience because of a lot of reasons. I don't necessarily want to argue that too much, but it was certainly very profound. COVID upset me so much that whenever it came up, my family would, well, I felt like I was inflicting something on them, but I could not stop talking about it because I was just so angry with certain aspects. Well, let me step back a little bit. When I first started learning and getting trained in the grief recovery method, the second relationship that I worked on was the relationship with my wife. Now, my wife and I have now been married, I think, 26 years. And it's been a great marriage, but you've been married that long and you're going to have differences of opinion. And we've moved a lot and et cetera, et cetera. So highs and lows. And there's always emotional baggage with every single close, important relationship. And one of the things that I love about the grief recovery method is that you can use it for any relationship, an existing one, a positive one, a negative one that ended long ago due to estrangement or death. Any relationship you can use the grief recovery method with. And so I made use of these tools with the relationship with my wife. And I was a little bit nervous. Would I allow myself to be emotionally honest enough with myself to go through the whole method? And I just decided I was going to do it. And so I did. And it was a good experience. Now, keep in mind, with the grief recovery method, I didn't have to share anything with her. There was no confrontation. There was no, I got to read you this and you just got to sit there and take it. There was no anything. It was all actually internal work. And I know she's done the grief recovery method from her side about our relationship too. And I have no idea what she said. And it's wonderful. So there's no like confrontation or anything like that. It's great. So I completed the work and I don't know if it was the same day that I completed it or maybe a day or two later or something. She and I were having an interaction and she said something that in the past, in the very recent past, I know that I would have reacted to in a way that I know I would have regretted. And I could see it coming and I just couldn't stop myself and I always regretted it. But in this instance, after completing the grief recovery method, it was almost this out of body experience. I was lying there or whatever, and she said something, and I said, "Oh, this is where you overreact. You go back to marriage year number 3 and you bring up, whatever." And any emotional heat that I had around that had really dissipated. And it was pretty tender, actually, because I just let that go. And if that was the only benefit that I gained, it would have been worth it. But that was just kind of the tip of the iceberg, really. It was almost like, in some ways, that we were newly married, except for we had 24 years, I guess, at that time of life together, of moving, of living, of raising children, of making decisions, supporting and loving one another, forgiving and apologizing to one another. It's like those feelings of being newlywed, but with all of the good stuff that comes from 24 years of a committed relationship. So anyway, going back to the COVID idea, one day we were at our house and COVID came up. And this was a couple of years ago because COVID always came up, right? And I was getting on my soapbox again. And my wife said to me, "Hey, John, you need to get therapy or you need to talk to somebody about this." And because, at least I attribute the fact that I completed the grief recovery method on our relationship, because I had done that, I attributed what she said was only out of concern and love, concern for me, concern for our family, etc. It wasn't a criticism or anything like that. And so I said, you're right. Do I want to just be angry about this forever? No, that's crazy. I don't want to do that. And so I actually went and talked to a therapist. And what was funny to me is we're sitting there talking, and it dawned on me as we were talking that, oh, those feelings that I had about COVID, those were feelings of grief. They were things like I wish things had been different or better or more about that experience. I had hopes, dreams, and expectations about how certain things would go, and yet they didn't. And so that was grief. And as it dawned on me that those feelings were grief, I said to the therapist, and so it turns out I'm a grief recovery specialist, and I take people through their grief experiences using these proven tools that have been around for some 40 years and helped them, millions of people. I'm going to go home now and I'm going to make use of this, and I'll let you know if I'd like to get back together. And so I went home and I did that. Oftentimes in grief recovery, we think about a symbol of like a steam kettle on the stove and is turned all the way up to 10. And we have the steam just pouring out. But if we don't figure out a way to release that in a nice way, instead of a valve, we have a cork in there and it just gets bigger and bigger until we explode in some way. Or you can just turn down the heat. That's how I think about it, at least. Hopefully that makes sense. I would say my feelings about certain aspects of COVID were probably at a 9, maybe a 10. My wife might say even 11 out of 10. And after I completed the grief recovery method on this experience, it was down at probably a low. I don't know if it was completely off, but it was pretty close. Like COVID would come up because, it was a big part of our lives. And that emotional heat that I used to carry was gone. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing and life-changing for me and for my family. And so I wonder if you might have feelings like that about COVID or about any other thing. Maybe you had a bad experience with a boss or a job or a school or something like that. And anytime something reminds you of that, these heavy, heavy feelings come into your heart again. I think we all have those experiences in our lives. So my invitation to you would be, don't wait another day. Don't bear that for one more day. Let's learn about the grief recovery method. You will learn about it one time. I will take you through the method, and you will choose one relationship, and I will take you through it. And then you can use those tools for the rest of your life on every single relationship with your loved ones, with these kind of, experiences with losing a job, gaining a job, pet loss, all of these things. You can use these tools on all of this grief, and it will be truly transformational for you. So if that sounds interesting, reach out. You can talk to me. You can talk to my wife. We would love to talk to you. Have a wonderful day.